everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and in this video I'm going to share some information with you on a beautiful plant called Feverfew. Now, the information I'm going to share with you is not meant to be medical advice. This is based on my own research, my own experience, and is my own opinion in using Feverfew in my own life, in my own herbal medicine apothecary that I have at my home. So please do your own due diligence. Check in with a functional medicine doctor, a naturopath, or a health care practitioner that is versed in using herbal medicine to guide you if necessary. Now, Feverfew is one of those plants that I've been using now for a couple of decades. I don't use it every day, but I have used it many times over the years for things like headaches, fevers, and even I've seen it work brilliantly for migraines. In fact, that's how it got its name, is for its ability to reduce fevers. Now, when I first learned about this, it was shortly after my dad passed away, and one of his dear friends, a naturopath in Southern California, as I restarted my dad's company, we started talking about the different formulas. Feverfew was not something that was in the line of herbal remedies that my dad made. So as I connected with this amazing gentleman who was such a good friend of my dad's, he started saying to me, how great would it be if you took your dad's extraction technique and you made a tincture of Feverfew? And honestly, it was his prompting that brought that to the forefront. And from ever since then, so it's been about 22 years that we've been making Feverfew into a tincture. And it's actually really easy to make into a tincture yourself. Now, the cool thing about Feverfew is it's something that you can put in your yard. And it's beautiful. In fact, I opened up my new book, Be Your Own Shaman, and Feverfew is in there. So you can see, this is actually a plant that's in the daisy family. And it's got these beautiful white flowers with this little yellow center. And the cool thing is it makes an absolutely beautiful addition to your flower garden. And it comes back every single year. Here in Utah, where we get harsh winters, of course, we can't use it. Don't have access to the fresh plant during the winter. But usually May through November, those plants they grow early in the spring. They grow abundant. They multiply, and you get these really beautiful flowers that add to your flower garden, but that you can go use medicinally as well. So I took some notes. I wanted to not forget some of these beautiful properties of the plant Feverfew, and then I'm going to share with you some ideas in how you can actually use Feverfew in your daily life for different things. Now, the thing with Feverfew that you need to remember, and at least do your own due diligence on, is it can interact with some prescription medications. So this, if you're on prescription medications, especially for things like migraines, you want to definitely check in with your healthcare provider, someone that can help guide you when you're taking that. Now, if you're also pregnant or breastfeeding, Feverfew is one of those herbs that's not suggested for women who are breastfeeding or who are pregnant. So keep that in mind as well. Now, of course, like I said, Feverfew is very well known for its ability to help with migraines. Now, one of the main compounds in Feverfew that allows it to do this, along with some of the other benefits that it does, is a compound called parthenolide. And this is something that this naturopath in Southern California and I talked extensively about. And from his research, he'd actually been studying Feverfew along with a bunch of other herbs for a long time, but wanted it put into a tincture the way my dad's tincture technique was. And so that's when I started making it. But Feverfew, from his research, stimulates adult stem cells. In fact, from the research that I did, this is what I wrote. Early research has indicated that the compounds in Feverfew may have anti-cancer properties. Parthenolide, in particular, has been studied for its potential to reduce cell death in cancer cells, or induce, not reduce, induce. So it has the potential to induce cell death in cancer cells. And when I was having this conversation with this gentleman more than 20 years ago, this was the biggest thing that he was using this for in his practice. So while it's good for migraine relief, it has anti-inflammatory properties, it's powerful antioxidant properties, cardiac health. In fact, this is what I found about cardiac health. There's some evidence to suggest that Feverfew can help in the prevention of blood clots. thereby potentially improving heart health and reducing the risk of strokes. Brilliant, right? And then, of course, fever reduction. Now, some of the best ways to use Feverfew. Now, personally, I love tinctures. Tinctures to me are easy. They transport fast into the body because they go right to the bloodstream. Nothing has to digest and break down. I've always been a really big fan of concentrated herbal tinctures, and Feverfew is no exception. This is how I use mine. That's how I prefer it. Now that I have a Feverfew plant in my yard, I planted one about 3 years ago, and every spring, in fact, it's out right now. It's got a ton of leaves on it. The flowers haven't bloomed yet. We're right now, as I'm recording this, in the middle of May, smack in the middle of May, and this is when it has just started blooming. It's been growing now for about 3 weeks, coming kind of out of its winter slumber, and probably in 2 or 3 weeks, I'll have all these beautiful white daisy-like flowers, and it's just a beautiful addition to anybody's flower garden, even if you never use it medicinally. So some of the ways you can actually use it are this. You could actually get the fresh leaves, chop them up super, super fine, and sprinkle them in salads. Now, when you do this, remember you don't need much. It's almost like using something like basil. I know I love basil. I can put a ton of basil on my salad, but you can use a lot of these medicinal herbs very sparingly, which you should. So I would chop up a few leaves very fine, sprinkle them and stir them in with a salad, and they actually have a really nice taste to them, but you don't need a lot because it's very distinctive, and not in a bad way, in a very good way. In fact, what I wrote is this: young feverfew leaves can be slightly bitter, but they can be chopped finely and added in small amounts to salads to add a unique flavor and to allow people to benefit from their medicinal properties. So just like going to pick a few leaves from your basil plant, pick a leaf or two from your feverfew plant, chop it up super fine, sprinkle it on a salad, and you have just added a power punch of powerful medicinal properties to your salad. You can make a tea. You can make a tea out of the fresh leaves. Just, pull 3 or 4 leaves, fresh leaves right off your plant, put them in a cup, pour some water. I have this little cover that I put on my tea as it's steeping so I can keep all the heat in, and let it steep for 5 or 10 minutes. Pull the leaves out, and you've got the most beautiful, yummy, actually feverfew. Feverfew tea is one of my favorites, and it's a new favorite, simply because I've been growing this feverfew in my yard only for the last 2 or 3 years. So I haven't had access to a feverfew plant until then. But it's interesting because what gave me the idea is some of my favorite hikes here in the Wasatch. There's wild feverfew growing. And of course, I don't pick any of the leaves that are growing out there. I always, respect Mother Nature and leave the plants there. And basically, I've now got a plant in my garden, and it provides more than I'll ever use. In fact, I've actually shared a few with a couple of my sisters, a few of the leaves that are on my feverfew plant. Now, you can also make your own homemade tincture using the fresh leaves. You can make it out of the fresh leaves, or you can make it out of dried leaves. So if you get a ton of leaves on your plant, harvest them. They grow back. They grow back even in the same season, and even more. It's almost like pruning something and helping it grow more. If you prefer to have your feverfew in capsules, you can dry the leaves and then chop them up fine, or get I have a coffee grinder that I don't use for coffee, and I use it to grind up my herbs, and I grind them fine. So dry the leaves first, get them all, dried, put them in your little grinder, your herb grinder, and then you can actually get your own veggie caps and make your own capsules. Now, when you do that, you want to be very careful about dosing. You want to learn as much as you can so that because a lot of these herbs, you don't need a lot to get the medicinal benefits from them, right? So you want to learn, if I get a capsule that's this size, do some research. How many milligrams of feverfew am I getting, and how many is in an average dose that is recommended for a human being, an adult? So that is just really important when you're making your own remedies. I think as modern humans, we like to overdo things. We think that if a little bit is working good, that even more is going to be better. But when you're dealing with herbal remedies, that is not true. That is, in fact, as a rule, it's quite the opposite. And this is where homeopathy comes in. You know, homeopathic remedies, it gives you a highly diluted version of almost anything, and it reacts in the body powerfully. So this is something very important to think about if you're making your own tincture, you're making your own capsules. Just make sure that you educate yourself on what kind of dosing am I getting, okay? Now, you can also do a topical application of Feverfew leaves. You can make a poultice. And if you've got inflammation, say you sprained an ankle, now of course you need to get medical attention if this is necessary. Sometimes you might need medical attention, and then you can go after inflammation on your own after that. But inflammation and pain responds very, very well to a Feverfew poultice. And do a little bit of research and you can easily see how to make a poultice. Now, if you want to grab a copy of my book, you can learn how to make several different poultices just from owning a copy of this book. Super easy. Now, the last thing is you can make a Feverfew infused oil. And this is actually one of my favorite things to do, is to take herbs, and I prefer dried herbs, but you can also use fresh herbs and infuse them into an oil. There's a whole easy way how to do that, and that's time for another video. But you can then put it into like a skin salve. So you'd use something like coconut oil, some shea butter, some beeswax to kind of give it some substance. Then put your herb infused oil into this skin salve, and then you've got something you can rub onto, say you've got some arthritis pain. You can rub a Feverfew salve directly on your elbows, your fingers, your knees. I've had a sister that gets migraines. Not only does she take the Feverfew internally as a tincture or a tea, but she'll actually rub some Feverfew salve right on her temples and just let that Feverfew soak into the temples of her skin, which some of these things, not only do they smell good, but they are such a beautiful natural way to take care of yourself. So what I would suggest is do some research on the beautiful plant that is Feverfew. And it might be something that would be wonderful to add into your flower garden and start learning how to make it into these different remedies so that you have it available if you get a headache, if you get a migraine, if you're susceptible to migraines or have a family member who is. By keeping Feverfew in your daily routine, even on a small level, even just 10 or 15 drops of a tincture daily, this can actually help your body keep those migraines at bay, because that's the goal, is to get on top of them and prevent them before they become a full-blown migraine, because I know those can be very, very painful. So let me know if you have any questions about this. I'd love to see if you are one of those people who are familiar with Feverfew. Maybe you have some extra information that you know, and you've been using it in ways that are different from the ways that I've been using it. I'd love to know if you have it in your garden, and maybe it's in your garden, but you don't realize that it's Feverfew and all the properties of it. So drop me a comment below, let me know what you think, and also if you have any questions, but we'll see you next time.